Being in this particular field, once in a while I'm asked about my religious roots. I typically say that it began around age 8 when my dad took our family to Pentecostal churches. And then after that, my mom started taking us kids to the Roman Catholic Church. You can imagine how eye to eye they were about all things religion. But then I recently heard a version of How Great Thou Art, and it occurred to me that it wasn't actually those things that started me off. Dating back as far back as I can remember, before church-going days even, we would watch Billy Graham crusades every time they were televised. All 5 of us kids were instructed to gather around our black and white antennaed TV, and we'd hear the word of the Lord from my dad's favorite evangelist. Now, if any of you has ever watched, and I already can tell that you have because there are some nodding heads, you will know that George Beverly Shea always sung How Great Thou Art. And it was hands down my favorite part of the program. I'd suffer through the rest of it. I mean, you're a kid, blah, blah, blah. But then this song would come on. Gave me goosebumps every time. I can't say that I remember much about the blah, blah, blah preaching part, except one that Reverend Graham did about the 10 Commandments. And the only thing I remember about that was, as a kid, sitting there thinking, man, there are a lot of things that we're not supposed to do. Well, while a lot has changed religiously in these 50-some years for me, I'm still struck by how our official set of rules speak so heavily about the no-nos. The 10 Commandments tell us what we are not supposed to be doing in order to be good, but minus 2 commandments about honoring God and honoring your parents, it's only about what we're not supposed to do, reactively staying away from those perils, as opposed to proactively what we are to do to guide us toward the promised land. Well, I have a solution for this. A supplement to the 10 Commandments called the Power 9, which gives us a list of the things to do. Allow me to explain. Longevity researcher Dan Buettner examined world's regions where there are the longest living people, where people are 10 times most likely to live to the age of 100, including little pockets in Italy, Greece, Costa Rica, Japan, and, wait for it, a community of Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, California. Who would know? Based on his research, he came up with the 9 common characteristics of all of these people for their unusually well-lived, not just long-lived, but well-lived lives. Of the 9, there were the usual suspects about dietary stuff: eat less meat, have a little bit of wine, don't overstuff yourself. And then there was another, a little less known thing about physicality, and that was entitled Move Naturally, Don't Overdo It, to trade in these rigorous workouts for more frequent, easier ways of moving, like gardening, biking or walking someplace instead of driving, using a rake, what a concept, and this applies, as opposed to like a leaf blower, incorporating hobbies that incorporate physical activity. So that's the physical part, but then we move away and get a little bit deeper into what he calls downshift, keep it mellow, otherwise known as de-stress. We all have it. We all know it derails us. And while you can't live without it, these researched folks mindfully incorporated stress-reducing things every day, more than the average Joe. It was whatever works out best for them. And here are some of them. The Japanese folks, every single day, took time to remember their ancestors. The Greeks, daily naps. The Italians, sipping on their wine. And the folks out west in our country, praying every day. Makes a difference. The next characteristic on the list takes an even deeper dive about clarity about your life's purpose. The Costa Ricans call it plan de vida, your reason for being, why you get up in the morning. On just this nuanced factor of my purpose in life, the study showed that the people with the lowest scores of life purpose were twice as likely to die as those with the highest life purpose scores. Wow. So with numbers like this, I have to ask you, do you currently have an idea of your life's purpose? Because the rest of us want you around as long as we can have you. Volunteer work, meaningful workplace activities, relationships. If you can't identify it, and I'm only half kidding here, please let's talk, because we want you around. And speaking of the we part, the next long and full life characteristic has to do with that, the us, the belonging. In this study, there were 263 centenarians, that's 100-year-olds. They were interviewed, and guess the percentage of those that regularly went to faith-based some church services. 98. 98. The people who went to church close to 4 Sundays a month lived 14 years longer than those who didn't. Now, rest assured, this doesn't have to be about church. You don't have to feel like you need to come and listen to me blather on that often, because it isn't about church. It isn't necessarily about the spiritual or religious aspect. It's about belonging to a group, some meaningful social group. The community of family, they give that one of the 9, because that's how important close-knit family relations are. This can range from your granny in the nursing home, to your life partner, to your little toddler nephew, to your adult kids who are raising their kids across the country. It doesn't matter. And then the Power Niners take an even deeper dive. The next one, the last one, is called Right Circles, getting what you give. This has to do not only with connections, but the right connections, surrounding yourself with this core inner circle where these people mutually and actively support you. You know how you hear like, yeah, my kid's running around with the wrong crowd. Well, this is the opposite. These adults are running around specifically with the right crowd, the crowd that calls them in to healthiness and calls them out with the opposite. So you've got connectedness, and you've got an informal life coach all in one. In Okinawa, this Moes group, they call it, there's a group of a Moes gathering, 5 people who have been connected like this for 97 years. The average age of this group of 5, 102. They still meet every day to gossip and drink sake. So these are the things underneath fully living, according to the experts. There must-do rules aren't about living long, it's about living well. And the longevity thing just happens naturally. Let's go back just a second, though, to consider the other must-do commandment list. Like all 9 of the Power 9, there are 2 proactive commandments. We mentioned it a minute ago. Honor God and honor your parents, which is code for honor other people. And this is well and good, but it leaves out the 3rd leg of the holy trifecta. Honor God, honor others. What about honoring me? Our 3-legged stool that isn't balanced is going to be a problem when one's short, isn't it? Imagine we've all sat on a stool that's kind of wonky. We'll leave it to our Jesus, the carpenter, to take care of the wonky stool. We haven't talked about his commandment yet, which according to him is the best one of all. We heard about it in the reading, and I agree, because unlike the other 10, he includes the 3rd leg, the me leg. When he was asked about it, he said, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. He didn't overlook the me part, but we usually do. Or I'll speak for myself to say, I usually do. When I hear that, we've all heard it how many times in our lives? Love God, love your neighbor as yourself. I'm not thinking about self-love. I'm thinking about, I got to be nice to other people. It's not about me, it's about them. Well, my friends, that is a massive oversight and a recipe for an imbalanced stool. Now, stepping back from all this, you might be asking yourself, why are we hearing about this in Lent? It's got some merit, but during Lent, where, we're supposed to be like self-sacrifice, giving stuff up, self-help and self-sacrifice don't really jive, do they? If you think the bottom line of Lent is sacrifice, you've missed the boat. The point of Lent is to grow. It's just that simple, to find liberation into who we were created to be and then be rooted in it. Liberation and rootedness, which makes me think of trees. Have you ever stopped to think that trees grow in 2 different directions at the same time? They grow down and they grow up. I learned 2 words recently. I'm very pleased about this. Gravitropic and phototropic. Besides given, does anyone else know these words? Well, I didn't. Trees are firstly gravitropic, growing away from light down into the darkness of the earth before it starts growing up. There's resistance because the roots have to grow down through the soil, right? When it finally starts growing up, it's liberated from that resistance, and this part of the growth is called phototropic, defying gravity and going toward the light. Now, as much as this is a lesson in botany, which none of us came for, it is also a lesson for our lives. The above ground version of ourselves is what people see, but it's the grounded, in-ground part, ever evolving in the privacy of our internal lives, that creates the enlightened part that people see. This is the Lenten message. What are we doing to foster light in life? And so the trees have much to teach us. And we hear this in these words by Mary Oliver. When I'm among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech and the oaks and the pines, and probably any other tree that Mary Oliver ever came across. They give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I'm so distant from hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me, the trees stir in their leaves, and they call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. "It's simple," they say, "and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light and to shine." It is simple. Do you notice how the words of Mary's message kind of reflect the Power 9 messaging a little bit? Go easy, don't overdo, walk slowly, find your place, find your people, find your purpose, belong, and then perhaps be here long. Yes, stay a while. I think we make things harder and more complicated than they have to be, trying to figure out how to be good. And this is what Lent invites us to find our way back to who and how we were simply created to be, getting back to our natural selves. This is not only a point of Lent, it's the point of our lives. Lent is just a special time to say, hello, hello. That's all. I'll leave you with another reference from our dear Mary, just a little tidbit from her poem, The Summer Day. Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? I look forward to hearing your voices now, and I invite you to share about some of the characteristics that are in your life that we've heard about today, the things that we're being encouraged to cultivate. And as they are in your life, what difference do you find that they're making?